and all things open. I think Onexi, that was your first conference, right? At least the first open source conference.
That was my first both. Yes.
What was your experience? What was it like? What surprised you? Or what did you like the most?
So I hadn't finished my degree at the time. So when I went to the conference, I didn't really know what to expect. I went initially because a program coordinator of the Catalyst program, Emily, was nice enough to kind of invite me out there, and really encouraged me to kind of go through to the conference. I had a lot of things busy with school, but I was convinced to kind of go there. It was close by to where I was living at the time too, so I felt like it was a great opportunity to really get to see what open source means outside of what my experience was personally during the Catalyst program. So when I went there, I was surprised to see that I didn't find that many students. So I was a student at the time. I was surprised I didn't find that many people trying to study or get into open source. It was mostly a lot of people that were already there for a while, or they've heard about a lot of the stuff that's been going on. So when I was there, everything was pretty much new to me. It was like walking into Disneyland and going, "Oh my God, they have a Hulk ride," or they have this other thing. And then the other thing that really surprised me was finding out that most of the things that I use on the day to day has at least some piece or is all like open source. And I would have never thought that the concept of open source was so big, especially because a lot of the discussion over at the event was about how to bring more open source into corporate, or getting more people into open source, kind of becoming a little bit more mainstream, which by the sheer amount of tools or code that is open source, you'd think that it's a lot bigger or a lot more mainstream, but at least the perception that I got when I was there is that there's still a lot of just common people in and outside of tech that don't really know that it exists at all. And I was surprised that I found out about it in my last year of college. So yeah, it was a lot.
And I mean, Onexi, I mean, if you go looking for it, there is literally study after study after study that fundamentally says if you look at any given piece of software today that's running any place, which pretty much everything is running some form of software, more than 80% of the code base of all of those different applications is open source. And so contemplate that number for a second. That's a staggering amount of open source that everybody relies upon. And it's this community of people that make and maintain that software. And that's how impactful it is. And you've never heard of it. So that's, where most people haven't heard of it, right? So you've got to, and this is why I'm shocked that it's not taught more as, the entire concept of how it works, why it works, and so forth. I'm very surprised that it's still not taught in university.
Yeah, I was very surprised to just find out about it, particularly because just for university purposes, I think it would be really a great way to get new people involved into communities and be able to kind of play around, get new ideas into communities, right? Because part of the thing that keeps them going is getting new people in, right? People come and go. Same thing goes for jobs. There's always a new generation of people that think differently, or think of another way that project could go in the future, etc. All these things kind of come into play. And also just for learning kind of real world skills. That was one of the things that I really liked about open source, where with the skills that I had at the moment, and I could kind of send something out there, and now it's actually in the real world in a sense.
People are using it. Yes.
Yeah, most of the stuff that you do in college is just you do it on your laptop, and
Girl,
then
wake up.
you might never think about it again, or that code just doesn't get used. And then somebody else, if they just knew about it, they might find whatever you did, even if it's a speck of dust, either interesting or useful, which I think is a great idea. That I don't know, it should be more out there. I feel like that's one of the biggest things about, say, something like Google, right? Google's a search engine. You could just Google anything, and then sometimes I could find the most small blog post that has like that one bit of information that I was looking for, or trying to find out about a particular niche thing. So I think the same concept could apply to just any code. That'd be awesome. Yeah.
Yep. The long tail of uses. Yep.
Yeah, and finding out that almost everything that we use right now has some piece of open source, so that the vast majority is open source. I feel like I mentioned before, so a lot of the corporations or the things that have been built on top of this stuff is what gets like the branding or the lights, I guess, or the eyes on it, the attention. But everything else that's like the small incremental steps that it took to even get to having things like cloud games and stuff like that, nobody really talks about that. It's more like, oh, what's the face of it, or the
Yep.
yeah, that's interesting.
It is because that's how the software industry works these days, right? I mean, and like I said, pretty much everything has software, right down to your light bulb.